Gandhi not have? Wealth, power, position. Could he give you a big promotion if you worked for him? No. Could he give you a massive bonus if you worked for him? No. Did he have any political office, military office? No. Yet, for those of us who are in the workforce already, we wish that the people that work for us had even an iota of commitment, as compared to the ones that work for him, who came, put their lives on the line because they wanted to, not because they had to. Right? So we put this notion to rest, that leadership's got anything to do with position power, right? And it's got nothing to do with competencies, it's got nothing to do with formulas. It's something else. If we can find out what made Gandhi get up every time they beat him up, if we can find out what made, when they put him in jail, they tortured him, they tortured his family, they did all kinds of atrocious things to him, yet every single time, after every one of those setbacks, he came back even stronger. If we can answer that question, how did that happen? We will have discovered leadership. Yeah? So now, some of you are wondering, oh, why is he telling us stories about Gandhi? Gandhi is 1 in a million, 1 in a billion. He's great. He's greater than life. Yeah? I'm an ordinary person. By talking about people like Gandhi makes me feel even smaller. So talk to me about ordinary people. Don't talk to me about great people like Gandhi. Because I've had this criticism before. Okay? So if you are one of those people that believes that, yes, I do believe that he's 1 in a billion, although if I had more time today, I will explain to you how ordinary a person he was, with no special abilities or skills. But anyway, let's buy that argument for a minute, yeah? Let me tell you a story of a very, very ordinary person. And what I'd like to do is ask you to picture this as you listen. Visualize that this is happening. It's a cold, wintry night. It's late December. It's about 8 p.m. It's dark in New York. It snowed a few days ago, and there's snow all over the floors and the streets. And a 7-year-old boy is playing in the compound of his project housing building. He's throwing snowballs at neighbors' kids. Project housing in the United States, for those of you not familiar, is government-subsidized housing for the very, very poor. So this little kid, 7-year-old, is throwing snowballs at neighbors' kids. Can you visualize this? Yeah? And his mother sticks her head out from a window a few floors above. Says, hey, you come up, I need to talk to you urgently. He goes running up and says, hey, Mom, what's up? And she says, I need to rush to the hospital. Your father has had a terrible accident. Please take care of your little brother and your little sister while I'm gone. And she rushes on. 3 or 4 hours later, now it's midnight, and an ambulance is pulling into the compound. 4 men come out carrying his father on a stretcher and walk up to his apartment and lay him on his bed. His father has a cast from hip to toe on his right leg. Multiple fractures and other injuries in his body as well. His father is a temporary truck driver. So he only gets to make money when companies need extra drivers. So he was driving a temporary truck, and he had an accident, and that's how he had these multiple injuries. So he's going to be laid up for about 3 months now, and as a temporary worker means you don't go back to work, means you don't earn. This family of 5, their total income has never exceeded $20,000 a year. By any stretch of the imagination, they are poor. Now, also because he's a temporary worker, he has no medical insurance. So no income, lots of expenses for medical treatment. What is this family going to do? His parents teach him how to answer the bill collector's phone calls. Tell them your parents are not home. His mother tells him that when you're hungry, if you're still hungry at dinner time after you've had the first roll of bread, do not reach out for the second roll of bread. Control your hunger, because we make sure that little brother and little sister have enough to eat, and we still have some money left over for daddy's medicines. Life is hard for this kid. For the next many years, life is hard for this kid. He cannot understand why society has left us behind like this. Why are people treating us as untouchables just because we are poor? Why isn't anybody coming forward to help us? Yeah? Why isn't anybody treating us with the basic respect and dignity that every human being deserves? No respect, and people are leaving us behind. Why is this happening? Cannot get over this. Goes on in his life. He's now 17 years old, still disturbed about why life is the way it is. Nobody wants to get anywhere near us, and nobody treats us with respect. He makes a decision. He says, if I can ever help it, I will make sure when I grow up, nobody around me is treated without the lack of basic respect that every human being deserves. I will make sure that nobody is left behind by society the way my family was left behind. And if I can help it, I will create a company my father never had the chance to work for. Leave alone starting a new company, this little boy has no money to go to college. Okay? Luckily, he's a very good football player, and he gets into a state college on a football scholarship. He's not a genius. He's a B average student, never got an A in his life. Okay? Gets out of college and gets a job in a multinational corporation as a sales manager. Fast forward a few years, and he's making $75,000 a year. More money than his family has ever seen. Fast forward a few more years, he changes jobs, and he's now making $100,000 a year in another multinational company. Lives in a company-provided apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, very fashionable in those days, has a company car, and he's living there with the love of his life. Life has never been better. His extended family, his entire clan tells him, wow, you are our hero. Keep that up. Fast forward a few months later, and he quits that $100,000 plus job, takes his now half-term pregnant wife with him, and relocates all the way to the west coast of the country for a job that only pays $28,000 a year. Are you crazy? Is what everybody said to him. No, he wasn't crazy. He hadn't forgotten his promise to himself. Fast forward some more, he now buys the tiny little company that he went to work for. And with that is born America's and then the world's first company to provide full healthcare benefits even to part-time workers. Everybody, whether part-time or full-time, gets healthcare benefits. Everybody, whether part-time or full-time, if you meet certain conditions, is given stock options. I will make sure nobody is left behind, and I will make sure that everybody is treated with respect and dignity. Remember? And by the way, it was a small company then. Today, it is a major multinational company. You see it in Malaysia. You see it in most parts of Asia. It was until recently one of the fastest growing companies in the world. Till today, this company spends more money on benefits than it spends on the raw material needed to produce its product. Have you heard of a company that spends more on benefits and less on raw materials? Unheard of. Unless it's a services company where there's no raw materials. Anybody know who is this guy and which company I'm talking about? Any guesses? No? All right. Well, look at your screens. I'm talking about this guy. His name is Howard Schultz, and this is the Starbucks coffee company. Okay? This is that 7-year-old boy who's now in his mid-50s. And he runs this company on those two principles and those two principles alone, which is respect and inclusion. There was a time in between when he had given up the CEOship and decided that, he wants to just be chairman. And that's the time the company's performance took a dip. And Wall Street analysts basically said, listen, you've got to cut down your benefits costs. Otherwise, your share price is getting very unattractive. And he said, over my dead body. Came back as CEO, never cut benefits, and the company is growing, the company is super successful again. Tell me that this guy is not an ordinary guy. Somebody who still has hunger before going in their tummy before going to bed at night, it doesn't get more ordinary than that. Somebody who never gets an A in his life, it doesn't get more ordinary than that. All right? When he was trying to get hired by Starbucks, he tried to convince the 3 partners of Starbucks for a year, saying, please hire me, I'll take only a fraction of what I earned in New York. And they kept saying, no. After a whole year of trying, they called him for an interview and finally had a chat with him. He thought he'd knocked them dead. He thought, wow, I impressed them so much. He took the night flight back to New York and said, I'm going to get a call tomorrow morning and they're definitely going to hire me. Sure enough, he gets a call from one of the partners, saying, Howard, we've been talking about this for 1 whole year. Our final answer, the normal conversation on this is no. After a whole year of trying, you get a final answer, no. How are you going to feel? This guy, you know what he does? He closes his office door and he cries like a baby for a couple of hours because he sees his future crashing and burning before it's even happened. Yeah? Then he goes home and he cries on his wife's shoulder for a little bit. And then he calls them again. Says, listen, you're making a big mistake. Allow me one last chance to plead my case. And that phone call changes history. What would you do after a whole year of rejections? How many of us would have the courage to pick up that phone again? When they told you, do not call me again. He's had enough. Later on, these three partners who own the tiny little Starbucks company, by the way, why did they want to do this? Why did they want to go from $100,000 plus to a $28,000 job? Because he saw a future. He saw a vision where he said, I want to create in people's lives a third place. What do I mean by that? Well, not my home, not my office, let's meet at Starbucks. So I want to create in people's lives a third place. And he saw a national chain of coffee bars, and then an international chain of coffee bars, and a company his father never had the chance to work for. So that's why he did what he did. Later on, when the three partners wanted to sell Starbucks, and they wanted to sell it, he needed $4 million to buy Starbucks Coffee Company. And of course, no money in his pocket. What's he going to do? He goes to venture capitalists. He goes to private equity. You know what he does? He goes to 241 investors, saying, please invest a little bit in this company. I need $4 million. Guess what? 230 of those say no. Are you mad? In the days of Xbox and Microsoft and all that, you want to start a coffee bean company? Go get a life. Are you crazy? 230 doors slammed on his face. He keeps asking, keeps asking, keeps asking until he gets the $4 million. My question to you guys, what will you do after 230 rejections? What will you do after 100 rejections? What will you do after 20 rejections? If we can answer that question, how did this guy keep going with all those rejections? We will have understood what leadership is. Does that make sense? I could go on and tell you many more stories, but I'm going to fast forward a little bit because I want to get to the essence. But you all know who this guy is, right? Very quickly, he was 13 years old and homesick in boarding school in England. And he called his mom in Malaysia and said, Mom, I'm homesick. Can I please come home for half term? And Mom said, no, it's too expensive to have you come down just for a week. Wait for the summer holidays and then we'll have you come over. That's when he thought, what if middle-class families could get together whenever they wanted in an affordable sort of way? And now everyone can fly. Yeah. Ratan Tata of the Tata Group. Similarly, he was driving down in Bangalore, chaotic traffic conditions as India is, families of 5 on a two-wheeler. It was raining, the road was wet, and he told his driver to be careful. Sure enough, a family of 5 on a Vespa scooter skid and fell right in front of their car onto the pavement. Nobody got seriously hurt. But that's when he thought, what if we could make driving safer, commuting safer for Indian families that cannot afford a car? 2 years later, the world's cheapest car, the Tata Nano, was born. You can buy this inside $2,500. Yeah? And this is Jack Ma. I'll skip his story, but read his story if you like. It's an amazing, amazing story. Again, a story full of rejections, failures before exit. Question for you. What's common in Gandhi's story and Howard Schultz's story and all these stories that I've told you? What were these people trying to do? What were they trying to do? Anyone? Sorry? Making a difference. You were, sorry? Solve a problem. Absolutely. What these people were trying to do, would you agree that they were all trying to create a tomorrow that is better than today? Yes. Yeah, that's what they were trying to do. Now, what happens to you the moment you say, I have an idea and I want to create a tomorrow that is better than today? What happens to you the moment those words come out of your mouth? What do people around you tell you? You can't do it. Can't do it. Yeah, are you crazy? Get a life. Right? Your constant companion from that point onwards, the moment those words come out of your mouth, is resistance, resistance, resistance. Active resistance, passive resistance, all kinds of resistance. Many leaders in history have been killed simply because they were ahead of their times, because of resistance. And if you look at ancient history, recent history, all the scientific innovators and things like that, they were killed because their ideas were considered like, crazy, but only to be proven right after their death. So what you're going to get, the moment you say, I want to build a tomorrow that is better than today, is resistance, 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 correct? So final question, what do you need a ton of in order to keep going despite that resistance? You know that resistance is going to be your constant companion. Leadership is a very, very lonely pursuit. It's a very, very unpopular pursuit. It's a perfect opportunity for being misunderstood. And there's no guarantee for results in the end. Do you really want to be a leader? These are not my words. This is what Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon.com, says about leadership. He said, be prepared to be unpopular for a very long period of time. Be prepared to be misunderstood for a very long period of time. Be prepared to be lonely for a long period of time. And there is no guarantee that you will succeed. Do you still want to be a leader?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. Exactly. Because those people who want to create a better tomorrow, for them, the reverse is not even an option. They don't care whether they succeed or not. The pursuit of a better tomorrow is a life worth living. If you're successful, that's bonus. So, what do you need a ton of in order to overcome and keep going despite that resistance? Give me some words. What do you need?
Self-motivation and dedication.
Self-motivation, absolutely. Determination, willpower, perseverance, vision, courage, staying power, all of those things, right? If I were to take editorial license and combine all those words into one word, I would call it energy. You need to have the energy to stay the course despite all those rejections, despite all those failures. The difference between leaders and non-leaders is simply this. Non-leaders give up, whereas leaders will never give up. That's the basic difference. 231 rejections, no problem. I will keep going until I will get the money because I believe in this. That's the basic difference. So here's a definition of leadership for you. Leadership is the art of creating a better future. Would you agree? Yeah? The moment you say, I want to create a better future, what happens? What's your constant companion? Resistance, resistance, resistance. Therefore, you need that energy. Let's complete this definition. Leadership is the art of harnessing human energy towards the creation of a better future. If you can figure out where Gandhi got his energy from, where Howard Schultz got his energy from, where all these leaders get their energy from to